It's Monday, January 27th, which means whatnots that it is a new week here on What Chaos, presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code WhatChaos so you can get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game. Hi, everybody. My name is DJ Bean. I am sitting beside Pete Blackburn, and across the room is Sean DePaz. Bit of a bummer for him. It is not lost on me, Sean. I said to you a few minutes ago that although we have been talking about the big game over here, you haven't said one word about the Buffalo Bills today.
Nope. That's why you play 7-game series. Tough way to start the series, but got at least 4 more to try and even it back up, or 1 more to even it back up, and 3 more to win the series. So
don't let Dalton Kincaid get hot / a correct spot, because once that starts happening, boy oh boy, the fortune turns. Shit's rigged.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted last night. I am famously not a blame the refs guy or a conspiracy theory guy, but it is the kind of shit that turns you into one.
You tweeted a lot last night.
I feel like I didn't tweet all that much during the actual game.
I'll be honest. I only saw one other tweet.
Was it the "Don't text me"?
Is the don't talk to me, don't text me. I don't want to hear from any of you. I don't want to hear that you feel bad for me. Which you weren't the only person to have that energy, because I tweeted that, like, hey, I feel bad for Buffalo sports fans, and some guy came back at me and was like, why don't you go fuck yourself?
Yeah, especially as a fucking Patriots fan. Definitely go fuck yourself. I mean, it's just
fair.
It's crazy how many people don't check on you until like the worst thing ever happens to you, and then they want to text you, oh, I'm sorry.
We check on you every day.
No, I'm not talking about you guys. Yeah. I'm talking about other people. I had people text me and then text me again apologizing for texting me after they saw my tweet, and then I felt like an asshole, so then I had to respond.
I do want to know, because I have other Bills fan friends, and different ones handle things differently. Do you like getting the game reaction during the game? Like, if I'm rooting for the Bills in a game, which I definitely was yesterday, and like the Mac Hollins touchdown, do you want to get in the group text like, they're doing it, or like Mac Hollins?
No, I just honestly, I don't care, because I'm like, you're happy Mac Hollins scored. I'm sure. This is changing my life.
Yeah,
like this means more to me.
I almost texted in the group chat yesterday, like while you were like celebrating. So I was like, on behalf of Sean, shut the fuck up.
No, I mean it's just
because it's not me, because I have a different group text that's a lot more active with that stuff, and my Bills fan friend understands this doesn't mean they're going to win, but holy fuck, it's going right for them.
I feel like Sean exudes the energy of like, don't celebrate anything good that happens to my team, because I know how this ends.
No, I mean, like I celebrated the Mac Hollins touchdown. I tweeted like a rare F-bomb. I like almost never swear in my tweets, but I did because Mac Hollins had me hype. But yeah, I'm just like I can enjoy the moments, but if you think that a good moment means that good things are going to happen to the Buffalo Bills, you're delusional, and it is the exact reason why I don't like people talking to me about the Bills, because you don't get it. You don't know that nothing good ever happens to us, and you can't get your hopes up. I knew we were going to lose the whole time. It is what it is.
I talked to you last week. You did not know you were going to lose the whole.
I thought. Well, to be clear, I thought the whole time that the Bills were better than the Chiefs, and I still think so. But I also knew. I said that me thinking that made me feel terrible. And it's the Kansas City Chiefs. We hadn't beaten them before in the playoffs. So I by no means thought the Bills were going to win that game. I did and do think the Bills are the better football team.
I would never tell you how to live your life, but I will say try to, and again, you're a Bills fan, so you have a different perspective than me. You've been through more shit than I have. But you have to be happy when they let you be happy, even if it's for 5 seconds and you think it's fleeting.
I was happy after they beat the Ravens. Like I was happy after they beat the Broncos. All of those things, but and I'm very much like an in the moment kind of person. So when things are going well for the Bills, I get very excited. But if you remove me from the moment and you ask me how I really feel, I'm always going to say that things are going to go poorly for the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Sabres and any team I root for. Because that's how it's always gone, with the exception of the handful of World Series that the Red Sox have won.
Well, this is a big bummer because this Super Bowl is going to suck.
Oh,
I guess
my
I'm
God.
rooting for Philly, but
I'm definitely rooting for Philly.
I think I'm rooting for the Chiefs, honestly. Because if there's one thing, again, that you know about me, it's that I am
goats.
a hater. And Patrick Mahomes' success closes the gap between him and Tom Brady. And I'd love to see him.
Yeah,
pass
that's
Tom.
the
he's
thing.
already
People
better
say
than
that like
Tom
we as
Brady.
Patriots fans shouldn't root for the Bills because they're a division rival. I am rooting against the Chiefs because I don't want Mahomes to close the gap on Brady.
Yeah, I mean, the
Patriots
only
dynasty.
thing that Brady has is like the numbers. Because I test Patrick Mahomes is clearly a better quarterback. I mean, Josh Allen's a better quarterback than Tom Brady right now would be like.
Fuck off.
No, this is all right.
Talent
No
perspective,
way.
Tom Brady would be like the 7th best quarterback in football right now. Again, the reason Tom Brady, no, not again, but
the
the
whole
reason Tom Brady
package.
was great was not because of his physical talent.
Right.
It was all the
But
other stuff.
It
and
all matters.
Yeah, it definitely matters. But I just think I'm going to watch the commercials in the halftime show and put the game on mute because I also don't want to listen to Tom Brady talk about Patrick Mahomes for 3 hours.
Tom Brady called a very good game yesterday. Tom Brady, especially relative to Romo.
I
Brady
always prefer Romo over Tom Brady.
Oh my God.
Really?
Romo
Brady was
commentates
good.
Like he's paid by the word. It's annoying.
I love Tony Romo.
Fuck
also,
off.
I'll say this. I guess you won't have a chance to do it again this year. Next time you listen to Tony Romo, he's got a little Trump to him. Like in his cadence and the way he speaks, it's a little Trumpish. And
A lot of rush yards for this team.
Both of them linked to
very
Carrie
enjoyable.
Underwood.
Hey,
Just saying.
All right.
But it is,
no,
it
that
is-
was Jessica Simpson.
Both.
Oh.
it is very it's
Tony
very
Romo.
entertaining to listen to.
Has a vast blonde dating history. Don't you underestimate it.
I mean, he wasn't. Jim Nance was horrible on that call. Like Jim Nance might need to be forced into retirement after that game.
I don't know. I'm always going to prefer Jim and Tony over the other guy.
That was bad stuff. Pete, why don't you tell the folks what's on the show today?
I would love to. Sean, go ahead and fire it up. Today on the show, we have Buffalo. I think we've already covered that,
Done.
unfortunately. Rantanen Fallout, big trade over the weekend for NHL fans who were not blackout drunk on, although that would be, I want to talk to an NHL fan who was blackout drunk on Friday night, woke up Saturday morning and was like, what? Really? Mikko Rantanen traded to the Carolina Hurricanes. We're going to get into that. Jeff Marek is joining the show to discuss the trade, the fallout, and maybe some other stuff around the league. And boy, it's a double guest Monday. We also have Steve Peters joining the show. We're going to go around the league with Petey as well. It's been a while since we've had Petey on the show, and we love him. We miss him. Very excited to talk to him. That's a very straightforward rundown of the show.
Yeah, I figured today maybe have a little more order than usual. We've had a crazy day. We taped a guest who will be on tomorrow's show in the minutes leading up to this. That is the reason why we were late. People were wondering if Pete would be wearing the squirrel costume. He might be tomorrow, but
Tune in to see.
yeah, you're going to have to find out. And if you are subscribed to our YouTube, you were able to get our immediate reaction to the Mikko Rantanen, Marty-Necas, Taylor Hall trade. Crazy stuff. We kind of hit it from every angle we could, but obviously this is an ongoing story and there's going to be more things to peel off from it. The thing I want to start with is Elliot Friedman saying that the Avalanche told Mikko Rantanen they would make him the highest paid wing in the league, but wouldn't pay him more than Nathan MacKinnon. And obviously, contract is why they ended up having to move one of their best players in a year in which he's putting up, as you said the other night, Hart-esque numbers. How do you feel about the money involvement of the Rantanen thing?
In terms of like where they should land on
What
Rantanen?
he wants, we're going to talk with Marek. We're going to talk with everybody about this idea that he wants the Draisaitl deal, which controversially, apparently, I am on board with a team building their whole thing around Mikko Rantanen and giving them that money. You and Sean lightly disagree, but how do you feel about how the money played into this separation between the Avs and Rantanen.
Well, I mean, in terms of asset management, if you're so far away from what a guy wants or says that he is aiming for, and you think that a deal is not going to get done, yeah, you obviously consider whether it's more worth it to trade him and get something back. I think the interesting part that you raised is like you don't believe in internal caps on teams.
That is my big rant for the day. They told Mikko Rantanen, we will make you the highest paid wing in the league, but we will not pay you more than Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon has a $12.6 million AAV, which is huge, of course.
Underpaid.
It's also a contract that was agreed to in 2022 when the salary cap was $81.5 million. The salary cap now is $88 million. Grow up with internal caps. I think that is the dumbest thing. And when I covered the Bruins, I used to try to figure out, do they have an internal cap? Do they have like a no one makes more than Chara? Oh, no, Krejci's up, so now you pay Krejci more. Well, but is Krejci better than Chara? No, but he signed his contract more recently. Grow up. Now Tuukka Rask is the highest paid player on the team. That's how they kept all of these good players and were good for a very long time. The idea of he doesn't make more than our captain, to me, and I know
Not
he's not the captain,
yeah.
but that's usually what teams like.
Nobody makes more than Gabe Landeskog.
Which
who's definitely coming back at some point.
LTIR wise,
Yeah.
but like the idea of nobody makes more than the guy we deem our best player, that's an excuse for being cheap. That's all that is.
But if that's your strategy, then that's your strategy, especially when you've got Makar coming up in a few years.
You're not going to keep good players then, and this is evidenced here. I think if you want to say the reason we're not giving you that is because we already are going to have two players on giant contracts, that's fine. We've talked about a lot of teams that have guys coming up on big deals that we've said, you know what? Maybe trade them because you just can't have that many guys making that much. If that is your strategy with Mikko Rantanen, I have absolutely no problem. If your strategy is we don't pay anybody more than $12.6 million because somebody agreed to that deal 3 years ago, respectfully, and I'll try to say this without swearing, fuck all the way off.
You also have to look at like, is Nathan MacKinnon going to be more insulted by being the second highest paid player on the team or by trading Mikko Rantanen in the middle of the season? Because you look at the interview that he gave after the Boston loss on Saturday, didn't look happy, looked very devastated. Although, to be fair, Nathan MacKinnon never looks happy, but it seemed like he was pretty devastated that Rantanen was traded.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read much into any of the post-game stuff except for Nathan MacKinnon. Because, like, this is your thing. Respectfully to Gabe Landeskog. Gabe Landeskog. This is your thing. This is the next however many years of your career. You probably want the incredible right wing playing with you. Although Nate just might grow into something unbelievable there, but we can only deal in the here and now. And This is a team that, although it's a wild card team, makes a lot more sense as a contender now that it's figured out its goaltending. I understand the strategy of saying we're not paying this guy, so we're trading him, and you shuffle the deck a little bit. It's a difference of opinion, respectfully, between me and the Avalanche there, but don't come at me with we didn't give him this number because we don't pay anybody more than our best player. We could go through every team in the NHL. How many teams have their best player making the most money on their team? It's not 32. I can promise you that.
Yeah, no, it's not. But like, I also think that, if you don't value Rantanen as being like a $12 million player, I'm not going to fault the Avalanche for that. And I'm going to give them credit for doing something about it. So like, that is what it is. And they made their decision. I don't necessarily know if I agree with it. I'm sort of still grappling with it. That's when a trade is huge, is when you spend like days thinking about it, grappling with it. And this is the biggest in-season trade that we've seen in a long, long time. I'm still like not totally sure about how I feel about it. Ultimately, I don't blame the Avs for not wanting to give Rantanen the money that he's looking for. Like Elliot, I think, said that he believes they were at 11.75. If that's as high as you're willing to go for Rantanen, I'm cool with it. I really am. Ultimately, though, I think like the bigger question is, I think you just hold on to him as your own rental and lose him for nothing.
Yeah,
I really do. I don't know. Like I don't think that based off of where you are right now, and there could be future moves coming, they may not be done, but like I think he gives you the best shot.
the 11.75 thing depends on if you're talking about the Avalanche or any other team, or I'll say most other teams. Let's say his current team, Carolina Hurricanes. I think that if he's asking for some sort of massive deal, Draisaitl-esque, if he proves himself to be a good fit there and is in Carolina what he was in Colorado, I'm seemingly one of very few people on the planet who feel this way. Give him the Draisaitl contract. And maybe part of that is me thinking that Draisaitl is already overperforming a contract that has not yet begun. Nobody in the world is going to argue that Mikko Rantanen, a right wing, is more valuable than Leon Draisaitl, who, as of this second, is the best player in the NHL this season. Not for the world, but this season. But he's younger, and he's essentially already on the open market. And if that's the cost for him with the cap going up, I don't make as big a face at giving him 8 times 14 as seemingly everybody does. So maybe I'm just off on this and maybe I'm overvaluing the player.
I mean, but the other element of it too is that like Necas only has one more deal after one year after this year. So like if he really pops in Colorado, who's to say that like his number's not going to come somewhat close to it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that's
to
where
say? He's younger.
Yeah, well, then that's where how Carolina played him or played out the RFA years of him comes in to play, because I think he'd be coming up on UFA at 26, 27, something like that, which is like the very soonest a player could. So yeah, maybe his deal is massive. I don't think anything that can happen that's going to get Necas to $14 million a year. I don't think. We'll see, though.
Yeah, but even if it's close, and I think you're looking at two different players, and I'd rather have Rantanen than Necas. Like, again, we'll see where it goes, but we got a show to do today. Rantanen is worth so much more than Necas, especially in the playoffs.
The only thing I would say is that the one thing that everyone complains about with the Avs is that they don't have any depth. So I feel like a few $1 million can make a pretty big difference for a team that needs to fill out their bottom 6.
And they got 2 pretty good players. Yeah. One really, really good player and another player in Jack Drury that I really like that helps sort of round out that roster. And we'll ask Petey about Jack Drury a little bit later, but like I don't hate the trade for Colorado. It's just a big risk for both teams.
Yeah, I don't hate it, and you are right to say I'm not sure how I feel about this because this has literally never happened before. So we are all wrapping our heads around it. There is no clear winner. There is no clear loser. I know people are slagging the Blackhawks. They've got enough problems as it is. Okay. So just everybody, please try to be nice to them. They're going through some stuff, but ultimately the most fired up I've been about this whole process came with that Elliott report that they were doing the internal cap thing. And that just, pisses me off and gets me all crybaby about it. Let's bring in Jeff Marek, the great Jeff Marek from The Sheet, one of the 2 best daily hockey shows on the planet. Jeff, how are you, my friend? Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, DJ. PD, what's going on, boys? Yeah, that made for a spicy Friday. Like, there's a number of interesting takeaways from this one. There's the actual trades themselves. What do you now think of Carolina, Colorado, and Chicago? Then there's the various philosophical debates about this that you can have, the nature of creative general managers, the nature of there are just some managers that look for solutions instead of roadblocks. And then I think, which is another interesting conversation, is it maybe time we took the training wheels off the salary cap now with the CBA set to expire? So this has kind of become a touchstone moment, I think, for a lot of these conversations. Talk
about the training wheels of the salary cap.
Well, listen, the salary cap came in 2005 after the great lockout of 04-05 that wiped out an entire season. And since then, basically, there have been like minor tweaks and minor adjustments. It's been the same cap. It's been the same cap that we've worked with. And, this is still the salary cap with training wheels. But isn't it time maybe now that this salary cap started to walk? and, get out of the stroller and start to move around a little bit. Like we move essentially with the same salary cap going back to 2005. Is it time that we sort of, let the salary cap move a little bit and introduce things like, I don't know, franchise tags and do more creative things now that theoretically every general manager, every team knows how to maneuver within the confines of the salary cap. I'm just advocating, I think, for nothing more than anything else other than let's see where we can take this salary cap next, because I don't think it's a healthy thing for the NHL to keep this salary cap in locked and loaded for as long as they have. I think it's time for this thing to stand up and move around a little bit. If you're not going to dance with it, at least walk a little bit.
So it's not as much an issue with like the hard cap, or would you NBA it and introduce a lot of different like aprons and luxury taxes? Because luxury tax would be interesting to me.
It would. Like there's a lot of things attached to it too. Like essentially, I mean, again, like as an old Montreal Expos fan, I'm going to go back to the Expos essentially being a farm team for the entire MLB once upon a time. In this situation, like I know that there's the internal cap discussion, and listen, I'm with you. I can't stand that. If you're going to look at it, don't look at the number, look at the percentage of cap when it's signed, but that's maybe a discussion for another day. All that I'm advocating for here in some ways is let's have different ways for teams to construct and keep the rosters that they've worked hard to build. Like in a lot of ways here, teams like the Avalanche in this situation are being punished for being too successful at, drafting and the even bigger piece, developing players here. And because of it, they have to trade them off to other teams for, not for, a lump of magic beans. Like they're getting really good players in return, but there is an element here of you get too good. We've seen this before, Chicago, LA, etc., Pittsburgh Penguins having to, that snake needs to shed some skin after they win a Stanley Cup. And I think that's always been unsettling, I think, for fans, certainly in those markets. And maybe it's about time that the NHL said it's time for a salary cap to grow up and actually reward teams for drafting and developing well.
Yeah, but you also have to consider that you're saying this as a smart person, whereas I'm a very dumb person. So as simple as the salary cap can get, I will take it so that I can understand it. I still don't even understand this one. So
okay.
More complicated.
People of other leagues do say that, though. They're like, when the NBA was having their lockout, a lot of NBA people were like, you know what? Give it to the NHL. They've figured it out. And I was like, they have? And they were like, yeah. Everybody knows what they're talking about when they say, here is this contract, here is what it will mean. I have other thoughts, but I'll let you go on that.
Okay, let me throw another one on the table then, just as we're having this, Monday afternoon discussion about, the ramifications of all of this. How about this? One of the things that hamstrings deals, as we all know, trust me, everybody in Toronto is having the conversation now about what does this mean for Mitch Marner? All of a sudden, Mikko Rantanen's an Avalanche. What does this mean for the Maple Leafs? Do they need to try to make a move with Mitch Marner? He's got the no move clause. What does that mean? Look, like how spicy was the weekend in the NHL? How much buzz was there created around the NHL this weekend because of this one massive move? And NHL trade deadline is now turned into, as we all know, NHL tweak deadline. It's harder than ever to make moves. If we're talking about caps, and I'm going to get into this, I think, a little bit later on the show, how about a cap on how many no move clauses each team has? Like, as we're all looking for where are the battlegrounds for the next CBA and how could the NHL look different, how about sort of, cap, if you're going to cap anything, cap no move clauses per teams. Maybe you only have one or two no moves. You have two or three no trades, and that's it. We'd love to offer your client a no move, but we're capped out. Just in order to, from a marketing point of view, encourage more movement in the league.
I like that. I also like making the no trade lists transparent. So fans can decide that they hate
what?
A
and
certain player.
So then players wouldn't want no moves in their contracts.
I'll tell you what, boys. So that is Pete. That's fantastic. Brian Burke would always tell me, and I'll tell you the same story to this day. When he ran the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he would never give me the name, but he would always say, you would be shocked how many Canadian hockey players have every Canadian market on their no move or on their no trade. No chance. Like there's some players that embrace the chaos of playing in a Canadian market where there's no such thing as an 82 game season. It's 82 one game seasons. Some players thrive on that. Others want to keep that at arm's distance as much as they can. I would love it. I think it adds a whole new layer and dynamic to, who wants to go where and why. I just know that would make, Pete, I think that would make a lot of Canadian hockey players specifically very nervous, especially the hometown kids. What do you mean you don't want to play from the Maple Leafs? You're from Mississauga, or you're from Belleville, you grew up in Newmarket, and you don't want to play for the Maple Leafs? I think it would be a fascinating yet highly improbable thing that we ever see in the NHL.
If you know anything about
you for bringing it up.
If you know anything about me, all I live for is making Canadian players uncomfortable and nervous. So
yep,
that would do it. On that idea.
That would do it. Listen, I mean, how many French Canadian kids would not want to go play for the Montreal Canadiens? We saw this play out with Vincent Lecavalier when, there was all that discussion about him going from the Bolts to the Montreal Canadiens, and he was swarmed at the All-Star game, and everybody thought it was going to happen before his no trade kicked in, and he was terrified of being moved from Tampa to Montreal. How many Quebecois kids don't want to just go and play for the Habs for that very reason? They don't want the 24/7-ness of their career splashed out in newspapers. And as Brian Burke would say, when you play in Montreal and you have a bad game, you're bad in two languages. Like when you're a manager in Montreal and you make a bad move, you're dumb in two languages. There's a lot of French Canadian hockey players that would say, thanks, I'm okay. I don't really want to go home to play.
If there were something like bird rights or any of the mechanisms that allow, say, NBA teams to keep their own players more easily, do you think that those would be exercised and utilized as much in the NHL anyway? Because I'm still thinking that owners would kind of stay on the way they are right now, which is like, I'm not paying X amount of guys this much money.
I think that's a really good question. I think that depends owner to owner. And I'll give you an example. Like there are just some owners that, we'll all say the proper things about the salary cap and respecting the salary cap and how it's a necessary mechanism for the entire ecosystem of the NHL to not just survive, but to thrive, competitive balance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anytime I get to interview an owner, and the last one that I did was Bill Foley with the Vegas Golden Knights when I was doing the pod with Elliot, I said, if there was no salary cap, what would you pay your team? And I think the number he rattled off was like $150 million. Like there are just like some owners that they just want to win. Like that's the only thing that they're driven by. In the last years of his life, if you asked Ed Snyder in Philadelphia, how much would you pay, Ed, for one more Stanley Cup before you pass away? Like what would the number have been for Ed Snyder? Like I think for every organization there would be a different number. So I don't know that I could paint with a roller on that one. It'd have to be a finer brush as I give you an answer. But I do think that there would definitely be some teams that would say, you know what, we're still in our competitive window. It doesn't matter how much I'm going to pay here, long term and short term, it's going to pay off. So I'm happy to pay this guy the number that he commands.
And in fairness to NHL owners, because I just kind of cast aspersions there, it doesn't equate or translate perfectly because the rosters are so much bigger in the NHL. So if you did that, maybe you would do you could have like two of those where you can go over the maximum percentage, the maximum percentage of the cap. But again, in the NHL, no one's going to the maximum percentage of the cap anyway on players.
Isn't this though, the last 5 minutes to me are fascinating. And I think that does wink at, what we mentioned off the top, and that is the salary cap can do so much more and add another layer of intrigue into the NHL that we haven't seen in some time. Like I'm always curious I don't know about you guys, but I always like forcing people or teams to make decisions, right? That gives you, in intrigue. And that raises the level of excitement around the NHL. This is what trade deadline does, right? Like we all have our eyes on 3:00 Eastern. Like that's like, okay, you're forcing a decision and here's where the time runs out, okay? And all of these conversations now, what we're doing, just adding another layer of intrigue and discussion points. And the more you can get people, I think, talking about your league, like that's the best marketing you can do, is people having the same discussion that we're having right now. And I assure you, this discussion was being had amongst a number of fans, and whether it's their group chats or at the saloon or in adult league dressing rooms and amongst parents watching their kids, like that can only add to the interest of hockey. I've always believed that a couple of things. Draft lists are marketing, and I also believe that draft talk is marketing as well. Even if nothing really happens on trade deadline day, just the buzz around it and the conversation around it is valuable to the NHL because it gets people in the mental space of talking about the possibilities for all these teams. And I think the more that you can introduce sort of intangibles and other things to consider, I think it's only better for hockey, only better for the NHL.
I mean, the two biggest important factors in sports in my mind are entertainment and stakes. And you get both of those with this trade, and with the kind of having to maneuver around the cap and with the decisions that need to be made, specifically with regards to Mikko Rantanen here. So would you ramp up the stakes, be willing to give Mikko Rantanen what he wants in terms of that money on that AAV, or would you trade him to make your team worse this year?
See, I don't want to judge this from Colorado's end yet until I see what happens by deadline. I know that seems like a Weasley way of getting out of answering something here, but
no, you're saying they're getting Crosby. I understand.
But man, that was something. Right away, they're getting Crosby. Everyone's got this dream, right?
And everyone's best that any big trade in the NHL that happens, it lasts for 5 seconds before it's like, well, how does this turn into Crosby getting traded?
Quick little side note, I just want to get out there and on the record, I try to not be a hater, but I did see some reporters doing the stop talking about Crosby getting traded. It's never happening. Yeah. That's bad reporting because you don't know that it's never happening. And in that moment, maybe you think it's not happening today, but I would just say a word to the wise as somebody who's been told stuff and then have been kind of played.
That's a good point.
Never say that something's not happening because shit changes or you're being lied to. I'm done.
This is true. Hang on a second though. You touched on something really important. That's not just true in hockey. That's true in life. This is all we are is going from information staging post to information staging post, and that's it. You're right. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what circumstances can change. We don't know what scenarios can change. I think you're 100% right on that. Just say I think that it's right to say Sidney Crosby isn't getting traded right now. Sidney Crosby has no desire to get traded right now. But that doesn't mean that this time next year a situation could arise where it makes sense.
And for all we know,
Sidney Crosby to get traded. I am, but that's again, that's there I go, wide brush. That's not just true of hockey. That's true of life as well.
And Jeff, for all we know, Sidney Crosby, as of that day, was not going to get traded. And I don't think it's happened, but no one knows in that moment that Sidney Crosby doesn't check his phone and say, Colorado traded Rantanen? What's going? You know what? There's room now. You know what? Now I actually would like to go, and that didn't happen, obviously. But when you say it's never happening, you're discounting so much stuff that is out of your hands.
To that point, it's there's one thing in there that I think is really salient here, and that is, again, we've turned this all into Crosby now. If it ever is going to happen, that will have to be initiated by Crosby. Yeah. That will have to be Crosby saying, okay, it's time, or I want, or this is the right path for me right now. I don't think it's a scenario where the Penguins go to him and say, so what do you think? Colorado's got an opening here. I think you know that guy, Nate. So I do think that it would have to be initiated by Crosby. Absolutely.
So what do you think about Rantanen? Would you
I love him. Love him. Love him. Love him, yes. And the thing about the Carolina Hurricanes that I think we don't talk about enough, and in some ways it's interesting, Pete, the Avalanche are the same way. Whenever there's a big name that's available, very quietly, because generally it doesn't get out, Carolina's always in there, right? Carolina was in on Eichel, just like the Avalanche are in on a lot of big players as well. I believe before he signed with the Rangers, Artemi Panarin was offered, it was a 3-year deal with a higher AAV than what he ended up taking with the New York Rangers. Like it's funny that these two teams made this deal, all three when you consider the broker here in Chicago. But these are two teams that are very sneaky, always big game hunting. Always big game hunting. And the Carolina Hurricanes have always been in there. I know that there's always Dundon's not going to pay. Dundon's not going to pay. Well, that's not true. Tom Dundon, the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, always has in his mind the value, the worth of a player. But I don't think he's past recognizing the greatness that is Mikko Rantanen, much like he would have also recognized the greatness of Jack Eichel and paid accordingly. He just doesn't want to overpay. Mm-hmm. But you have a guy that's going in the Hall of Fame one day here. You have a guy that's still in his prime career who's putting up century marks every year. You have someone in here that's going to help you in the playoffs. It's like you just keep going and the biggest and is these guys don't become available, right? Like this is Eichel trade. This is Thornton trade. This is enormous. One day we're all going to look back and we're going to say, how did Colorado let this guy go? Again, like I'm not sure how I'm going to ultimately judge this trade. I'm not sure how you guys are going to judge this trade, but I know I'm not going to judge it until I see what happens in the playoffs with the Hurricanes. And I'm not going to judge it until I see what else happens with the Avalanche, because now with some space, I think there'll probably be some other shoes to drop here. But from a Carolina point of view, I go back to something like there was a podcast that came out in the summer that Eric Tulsky was on. It's the Expected by Whom podcast. And Tulsky made a point, because I think we're all trying to figure, okay, so how's this guy going to operate as a GM? Like, what's his MO here? We saw him let a lot of money leave. Teravainen and Pesce and Shea and Rand. They let a lot of guys go, like a lot of money go. And on the podcast, Tulsky said something that has stuck with me ever since. He said, the question you ask yourself as a manager is, am I just filling holes or am I trying to make my team better? It's easy just to re-sign guys and say, well, I've got that slot taken care of, but am I really trying to get better? And one of the things that I think the salary cap, again, we'll go back to our original conversation. One of the things I think the salary cap has taught us is if you have a chance, even as a minuscule chance, to make your team better at any position, given how hard that might be under a salary cap, you do it. And you take that opportunity. And that's why Tulsky, in conversation with LeBron in The Athletic, said, like, look, until I get the 20 top players in the NHL under my salary cap here, there's always work to do. Certainly that's tongue in cheek, but it does hint back at something that he said in the summer on that podcast. And that is, am I just filling a slot or am I trying to make my team better? And I think that Tulsky's the kind of guy that embraces the idea of letting players walk because it challenges him to fill that spot or that cap space with something that makes his team better. Like Tulsky should be, for a lot of people, the most interesting general manager in the NHL right now today, because that's the way this guy thinks.
And there's like an air of mysteriousness around him.
Yes.
Where it's like, what is this? He's almost like the new guy showing up to the prison yard, and it feels like he just shanked the biggest guy on the prison yard by this big balls move.
He definitely has prison vibes. You're all right. If you Google Eric Tulsky, you'll be like, whoa, when did I get to prison?
No, but he's right. He's like that. You always see like the big the skinny weightlifter who shows up at Venice Beach and like starts like doing like gorilla presses with more weight than anybody's ever seen before, and then takes off the beard and drops the cane. Like he's kind of that guy in a lot of ways, because listen, like when anyone comes into the NHL from a non-traditional background, I didn't shoot frozen cow patties off the side of the barn in Swift Current for 15 years, so I have no right to be a general manager. When anyone comes into the league now, there's always that skepticism and, oh, what's this guy going to do? And, oh, he's going to get roasted. And there's so many pirates out there. They're going to make him walk the plank on every deal. This isn't going to last, and we'll see what happens with Rantanen here if they can get him re-signed. But I mean, this one kind of looks like a Picasso for Carolina, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's your line. Sometimes you paint a Picasso, sometimes you paint a barn. It looks like he's painted a Picasso in this one here.
And somebody in the chat noted too, part of all this is the restraint that he showed in free agency. obviously Gensel goes, but he also didn't sign Brett Pesce. He also didn't sign Brady Shea. So he's kind of like kept his ducks in a row to position himself to make this massive move.
And like at this point, to further that point, like if I'm the other 31 GMs in the league, I'm terrified of Marek Tulsky because he is a genius who could literally do any other job in the world, and he's choosing to do this one because he likes it. You know that he's smarter than you. I would be terrified to deal with that.
But he looks like a member of Oingo Boingo, so that fucks with your head as well.
Didn't you do the music in Pretty in Pink? Was that you, Eric Tulsky? Was that not you?
He wrote the Simpsons theme. People don't know this about Eric Tulsky.
But that's the thing. Like Cliff Fletcher used to always have the reputation. Like the old line about Cliff Fletcher was, if you shake hands with Cliff Fletcher, count your fingers afterwards. Right? Like, I like this is still early to say that about Tulsky, but he very much does have that. Like, I know there aren't any Pirates in the NHL anymore. Everyone's got to do the right thing. And I'm going to help you with this deal. No one does trades. You know, Brian Burke would always say, when he first started, the way you judge the trade is, did the other general manager get fired? And if the other general manager got fired, that was a good trade for me. It was your job to try to have as many GM kills as possible, have as many pelts as possible behind you. How many GMs did you get fired? That doesn't exist anymore. Everybody allegedly tries to help one another. But so far, I think Tulsky's really distinguished himself here as being one of the lead candidates for the Jim Gregory Award. I think you're bang on about that.
Sean, I cannot wait for us to put up a video titled Eric Tulsky is a Gangster. And it is just the last 5 minutes of this. People clicking around. It looks like Marek's there. Eric Tulsky's a gangster. Let's find out about this.
Somebody.
Eric Tulsky is going to suck your blood. Last thing before we let you go, Alex Pietrangelo has backed out of Four Nations due to an ailment, and right after that, he played 24 minutes and 22 seconds against the Florida Panthers. Yeah. This was Pete's question, so I'm stealing it. Should we begin to worry the players aren't taking this Four Nations thing too seriously?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had this conversation with Wish on the show a couple of weeks ago about how there isn't really, at least from a player's point of view, because they're in the day-to-day of the grind of the season. And he was pointing out things like, look, there's not even a group chat for this, for Team USA. Like no one's sort of getting behind this yet. Like I think that this raises an eyebrow because now there's one player who said, I'm not going. And they're not going to get suspended. Like Petrangelo's not getting suspended because of it. This isn't like the All-Star game. I don't think it's going to be like this like tumbling dominoes where all of a sudden a dozen guys piece out on this thing. But I do wonder if now there's one, if that opens a door for others. I don't think there'll be a mass exodus from this one, but this one is interesting. Now, there are some players obviously that have had things done to them that they can fight through during a regular season. They just don't want the extra, and they're going to do the minimum so they're as healthy as possible. I think of goaltenders this way. I wonder about Ullmark with the Ottawa Senators specifically. There are some guys that are just like, look, I can gut it out for the 82 games, might need a rest at the end of the season. I'll be a health bomb a few times, but don't ask me to play in an extra tournament. That's a bridge too far for me. I wonder how many other guys that are out there that now that Pietrangelo has done it, maybe that opens the door for them. I don't know the answer, but I think I'm answering your question with a question. Will this open the door for others? A bad talk radio answer, but the answer I have is I don't know, but I wonder like everybody else.
Well, far be it from the Vegas Golden Knights to stash a player in order to save them for the playoffs.
This is brand new stuff.
Listen, wait a minute. The Edmonton Oilers would this is going to go historical for your audience here. The Edmonton Oilers in the 80s would stash players like Reijo Ruotsalainen every year, and then suddenly, boom, they would appear out of nowhere to play in the playoffs as a depth player for them. So this is not anything new. It's a creative way to do it, the way the Vegas has done it here, but it's not as if they've introduced anything new. Minnesota did it with who was it? Ron Wilson once upon a time. They buried him in Italy for 1 year once, then sprang him on the playoffs. So it's not that historically this has no precedent. These things have been done for years.
Okay, well, I know you have Eric Tulsky on your show today. Are there metal detectors when a guest calls in?
I can't. Yeah, no kidding. Again, like he's the new Cliff Fletcher. Like, don't shake hands, or else I'm going to be like, okay, thanks, Eric. I don't know how many fingers I have left here, but listen, like I'm really curious about, like, more than anything else about in this Tulke conversation is, how does he approach trades, and how many other other trade balls did he have up in the air? And is this a situation where you may have played teams against each other to get the best possible deal, as we all try to figure out who Eric Tulke is, because we're getting sort of like little bits and bits here. This is a major piece of the Tulke puzzle. Let's see how much he's willing to share about his style and strategy here.
I'll just say, if he is very soft spoken, run. If you're like, Eric Tulke, thanks for joining us, and he's like, it's very nice to be here, thank you.
Yeah,
that's scary as shit.
You know what? I think I'm gonna have to watch like The Usual Suspects before the interview. He might just be Kaiser Sose this whole time.
Yes,
and we've been completely unaware. There's your headline. Eric Tulke is Kaiser Sose. There's the headline of your show today.
The ultimate gangster.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
A sneaky fun part of this is that Vancouver might just be like, well, what the fuck do we do now? And they're just left there on an island where they're like, they're absolutely screwed.
No, they trade everybody to Buffalo, Sean. It's a win.
But you know what? Hang on a second. Hang on. Can you just pause? The Buffalo piece is interesting here, because you know what this made obvious? How much time do we have? Do I have a couple of minutes here?
You do have a couple. Go ahead.
Okay. So here's what I do. Here's what I do wonder about. We're marrying, like, okay, so it's going to be the Vancouver Canucks and New York Rangers doing this deal. No, it's going to be the Vancouver Canucks and the New Jersey Devils doing this deal. One of the things that's become really, really obvious, and we just saw it play itself out here with the Carolina Hurricanes and the Colorado Avalanche. Now, so more than ever, you need a third team to facilitate trades. Like, you're a team like Colorado, going for it. You're a team like Carolina, going for it. It's near impossible for those two teams to do a deal, get what they want, and not have to give up something that really devalues their team. More so than ever here, the broker is really important. And that's where I wonder about the Buffalo Sabres. I think the Sabres have their major meeting today. I wonder, what the direction of the franchise is going to be, tomorrow morning when everybody gets up. But I do wonder how important brokers are going to be through all of this, specifically with any Vancouver trade. I'm really curious to find out how that breaks down, because if you're the New Jersey Devils and you want to bring in JT Miller, how are you making that trade without a broker?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're the Rangers, how are you doing it without a broker right now?
And that sucks, because this, for all intents and purposes, was a hockey trade. This was, here's your awesome guy, give us your awesome guy.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I think we have to recalibrate sort of what we mean by hockey trade here. Like, if you have two teams that are focused on 2025, you need like one team that's focused on 2026 to make a trade work now in the NHL. Like, that's the way it feels to me. Does it feel that way to you guys?
Agree.
Yeah. Especially if you're trying to make money work.
Yes. And that's the big one, right? And not devalue your team too much. So it's fascinating right now. Like, we'll see where all this goes. We'll see where all of our conversations at the beginning of this one go. But I think this one has, kicked off a lot of different conversations in and around the NHL. We'll see where any of them end up.
We're partying now, that's for sure.
Yeah, best of luck. We'll probably use like half of your audio from today's show on our show tomorrow, both what you did with us and what you do with Tulke after. So folks, if you like Jeff now, get ready to learn more, Marek.
There's an old saying, greatness borrows, but genius steals. So steal away, gentlemen, steal away.
Absolutely.
Why don't we steal away? A great man just once asked that. I don't know who sings that song, but it's a good one. Thank you, Jeff. You're the best.
Thanks, DJ. Thank you very much, Pete. You guys be well.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. If Jeff were any better, he would be Shady Rays. I'm talking the company that helps you get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering wholesome, world-class products rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style, and they probably even have them in your team's colors. What is my team, you ask? I don't know. It depends on what the cap looks like and if you're able to make cool trades, because your team could be changing all the time. And if you're like me, get multiple Shady Rays. You know what I ordered last night on Amazon?
Shady Rays.
No. I go to Shady Rays for that.
That's true.
I ordered a sunglass like wall organizer thing.
Nice.
And I got it used, actually. They had a used one. And I thought,
Sean Avery voice.
half price.
Enjoy those sloppy seconds.
Yes, it was half price.
Yeah.
How could this be so bad that it's going to be half price?
The Blackhawks retain 50%.
My apartment is used. Shouldn't I also get other used stuff to match it?
Yep.
So I'll keep you posted on that. Maybe a little bit of a question there. No question when it comes to Shady Rays. I'm talking about an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. I wear Shady Rays for rollerblading. I wear them for strolling around. I am a many pair of sunglasses guy, so Shady Rays is my number one choice. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code AC35 for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Before I talk to you about Bauer, I just want to say, if there's anybody new in the chat watching or listening, please go ahead, like the video, and subscribe. We would very much appreciate your patronage. Hit that subscribe button. We love you. We also love Bauer because Bauer is the best hockey equipment and apparel company on the planet. And if you don't believe me, go to Bauer.com and check out that sale page, because their sale page is an absolute party. It offers a wide range of discounted products, including skates, sticks, protective gear, and apparel that caters to players of all levels. You can find significant savings on premium hockey equipment known for its quality, its durability, and its performance. You got seasonal deals, you got clearance items, and a great opportunity to purchase gear at a reduced price, including 30% off Nexus Sync and Easton S17 sticks. You got 40% off select skates, 25% off select helmets, and 50% off select apparel styles and collabs. We love Bauer. We swear by them. So if you're not familiar with their game, or if you are familiar with the game and you love them, go to Bauer.com and hit that sale page. And also, you've got a free shipping code courtesy of us. Free Ship WC will get you free shipping on your order. Love it. Buy it. Enjoy it. Bauer. We love them.
Oh, man. Great breaking news.
What?
Just heard from a friend. Joining us on the show tomorrow, Carolina Hurricanes forward Taylor Hall.
Oh, no way. Let's go. We got a double guest lined up for tomorrow, do we?
Double guest? Do we? Do you mean to tell me that joining us on the show tomorrow is
my favorite player? Ryan Leonard is going to join the show tomorrow. So we have Taylor Hall and Ryan Leonard on the show tomorrow. If you know me, you know I love me some Ryan Leonard. And the interview got off to me just basically gushing about how much
Could
I love
not have
him.
said that in a creepier way.
What?
Love me some Ryan Leonard.
Generally, you could say that my love for Ryan Leonard borders on creepy, maybe? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. It's just the way you said that.
I love the guy. I love Ryan Leonard. So very excited to have him on the show tomorrow. We love Taylor Hall. He's been on the show already. He's a great dude. I'm excited to
Sean, you want to
pick
give
his
us
brain.
the third joining us on the show tomorrow?
Joining us on I don't know.
I know.
On the show tomorrow?
Yes.
Is it Jeff Merrick?
You're
Video
going to
that we
have a
steal?
man?
In a
Across the room, you're going to have a man.
Oh, and a squirrel? Question mark?
I will be in a squirrel costume tomorrow for tomorrow's episode. So
This sounds like it's going to be a good show. It's going to be
It's gonna be
taped and
awesome.
banked because we're going to be on location doing something else, but it's going to be with some very cool people.
Have we ever had the same guest twice in a season?
Frank Petrano.
Was it
True,
was
yes,
it twice
yeah.
in the same year?
yeah, because we got him at the
Probably.
All-Star game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Frank Vetrano, to anybody who watches the show on cinema at the cinema, Frank Vetrano is our Joe Estevez in that he is just occasionally there and he's the best. You know who also is on with us a lot? Wait, did you do the ad read for Bauer?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, great. I was too busy emailing with a pal, but it was a great ad read. And if it were any better, it would be Steve Peters. Petey returns.
Whoa!
Clapping per 60 on this episode
We gotta
is
bring back
very
clapping.
high.
I was going to say I like that.
Yeah,
we
clapping-
need to do that more.
I feel like podcasts don't clap. That could be our thing.
It feels very McAfee. Doesn't Pat McAfee? Nice.
That's Petey.
Yeah.
Petey has his own sounder. But yes, Pat McAfee does do that.
Hey, Petey.
Hi, guys. You don't know how much I missed you guys. It was like my own little private fortress of solitude. It's very sad.
We know,
but I get to talk hockey. But following Jeff Marek is literally not fair. Like that, you can't do that to me. Like, not fair.
No, brother,
best in the business.
You're so good, and I was tearing up watching the first episode of Inside the Coach's Room. Sean, if you could, at your leisure, drop a link to Petey's YouTube in the chat. Petey has started a show called Inside the Coach's Room, and so far he's done episodes with Dave Tippett and Dave Hackstall, and they're both so good. But I paused like half hour into your conversation with Dave Tippett and said to any YouTube heads out there, I was like, you are hockey Rick Beato. Do that. You are going to the moon, brother. It's such a good show.
Wow.
Your perspective and your speaking from such a place of knowledge without being douchey is a very, very hard thing to do. I don't speak from a place of knowledge.
Same.
And as the commenters say, we are both very douchey. So what you do is incredible. Absolutely love the show. Strong recommend to everybody.
Wow. I honestly thank you so much. You guys know, because you guys love doing this. Like, you love getting in front of a microphone and talking about hockey. I know you do, because that's why you do it. I didn't know I loved it until I didn't have it, and then I found out, I'm in one. And so there's no laws, no rules. Just turn on your microphone, your camera, and get at it. So yeah, I'm having fun. It's a lot more work than I thought. I didn't know. Like, the self-producing thing kind of sucks. It's nice to have somebody do all the work for you and just talk. But no, it's been great. I'm so excited. And I know Tip ran a little long. Hackstall is going to be a little short. It's going to be out tomorrow. It's good. And I'm asking him questions that I know are hard to ask. Like, I'm not asking him about getting fired. What's it like? Like, did you see it coming? Did you know it was coming in Seattle? Usually you know it's coming. I've been in those rooms. You know a coach is getting fired, but you know weeks ahead what day is it going to happen. Did he know? Like, after that extension, you would have had to think probably not. So I'm excited about it, and just stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff coming.
My favorite part of the Tippett conversation was just the family aspect, because I am not a coach. To my knowledge, don't have kids, and just like hearing two dads talk about what's it like at home when the team's not playing well, and you try to not bring it with you, but people love you and they support you. So when you're losing, they're sad for you and they're worried. Like, it's just so much shit that we've all been to a million hockey games. We've watched a million hockey games. We've covered a million hockey games. And just knowing that there's 400 more layers that we never think about is amazing. So you having the experience, and
Thanks,
it sounds like I'm like being a used car salesman here, but really it's so good. So everybody check them out.
Why are you calling Petey a used car? Petey's a brand new car.
Nobody. I am
Cars
just
only
getting
get better
started.
with age, and so does Petey.
Famous.
Honored to share the airwaves with you
drive
guys.
a car off the lot, it only gets better with
Exactly.
age.
As soon as you drive it off the lot, it goes up 50% in value. They're like, damn, who's using that?
Yeah. Can I do one more plug for one of your sponsors?
Yes, please.
So Christmas was coming, I ordered this because I thought it would be a great addition to my fit. I'm trying to keep my drip up to speed with you guys. I use the word dip and drip and fashion. And anyway, I got it. Literally got fired the next day. Like, does that happen? Does that happen, buddy? By the way, this should like I paid for it because that's what you do. And I got all kinds of money coming in. No, maybe I don't. Return policy wasn't great.
Best ad read of all time. Buy our merch.
It was good.
Fired the next day.
but sick hat though. Sick hat.
So
I did put it on. I'd wear it for the show, but Gene Principe, like he just sets a high standard. He sets a high bar in the ads, and I will wear it in private, but not on air.
I like that you got gray because I think we all
did.
have
I went different.
Gray's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
like that. We were bonding. More bonding, DJ. I like it.
Yeah.
DJ wants to ask you this question. He stole my question earlier in the show, so I'm going to steal his here. Can you identify or give me an explanation as to why Quinn Hughes is so much better than everybody else that he plays with?
This is hard for me because when Quinn Hughes has the puck, he is the most dynamic player in the league right now, and that's a bold statement, Cotton. And we're talking elite puck skills. And we're talking Connor McDavid elite, Nathan McKinnon elite. And from the back end, there are only two players that handle a puck like him, and it's Makar and Hughes. Hughes does it different. His speed, his ability to change directions, with speed with the puck is almost unheard of. It is phenomenal. And when he releases the puck, he doesn't have the big one-time slap drive. He's got that little wrister, and it is dangerous. It eludes goaltenders that aren't prepared for it. He shoots harder than you think it's going to come in because his release from that body type and that size, the goalie's thinking, I got it. I got this. And then it's by you. That's special. It's absolutely special, his ability to do all of those things together and mind you, and not get hit and to be able to elude that. But it comes down to his foot speed and his hand speed and his ability to do all of it at the same time.
Would you consider him for Hart this year, just based off of like relative impact?
No.
No?
No. There's good. The truth is, he's elite at what he does. He can walk the blue line probably better than any other defenseman in the National Hockey League. However, and again, these are just my opinions of a guy that watches some hockey. He's not even the best player at his position. So I don't know how I can name him the best player in the league. Is he the most dynamic player when he has the puck on his stick? Probably. He probably is. But unfortunately, there's more to the game than that. And there's more to being a defenseman than that. Quinn Hughes, from his own blue line in, is not a dominant defender. And part of that is his size. But he's got a good stick. But he still doesn't win the 50-50 battles. He can't push people out in front of the blue paint. He can't defend the way he wants to. And you talk about what a streak he's on. 3 of the last 6 games, he's been a minus player. So I have a hard time saying that's the guy that I'm going to say is the most valuable player in the National Hockey League. Now, is he the most valuable player to the Canucks? Without a doubt. But that's like saying you're the best captain on the Titanic. Like that team, look at that. Look at their point leaders in that team. The best forward is JT Miller, who's missed a lot of games. He's got 33 points. That's the lowest total of any forward in the National Hockey League that is leading his team in points. The lowest. So I don't know where you have to set the bar to be the best on that team. And I'm not disparaging the Canucks or Rick Tocchet. They're going through turmoil. They'll survive after the trade deadline. But those are all the reasons I don't think Quinn Hughes is a Hart Trophy candidate.
Who do you think is the best defenseman in the NHL right now?
Yeah.
Cale Makar. I don't know how you say he's not. And there are players that do things well in different categories. Evan Bouchard's got a phenomenal shot. He's great. You've got you take your pick at the Carolina Hurricanes on who can defend and close gaps. Same with the Florida Panthers and their ability to close gaps and defend and great sticks. And Forsling is one of my favorite defensemen in the league that I know he gets his just dues now, but overall his game is absolutely elite, but it's still Makar. And it's because he can do both things extremely well. And because of his size, he can be a more dominant defender. I think when you look at time on ice and look at Quinn Hughes' time on ice this year, he averages 9 seconds on the penalty kill. And that's because he gets out right when the penalty kill is ending so he can get on an offensive burst. Cale Makar is 2 minutes. He's out there on the penalty kill. He's on the power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5. Plays all facets of the game. He's elite offensive player, but yet they trust him to be out there defending. So I don't think there is any player in the league that plays the back end like Cale Makar.
Is that your counter to the people? Because the counter to the Makar argument for a lot of people is that his splits with and without McKinnon are pretty drastic. So how do you answer that in terms of the Norris ballot?
And that's fair. And that is fair. But I said it before, Quinn's doing it by himself. Colorado's a better team right now than the Vancouver Canucks, top to bottom. They're a better team. And yeah, absolutely that helps them. But that shouldn't dissuade you from saying a player is great. Leon Draisaitl and McDavid play on the same team, but that's not their fault. They play on a good team. And I think when you traditionally look, Coach of the Year is going to be a team that surprised everybody. The best player in the year shouldn't be. The best player of the year at their position shouldn't be. That's not a surprise. I think he elevates a good team to make them even better. Do I think Quinn Hughes is going to be not only a Norris finalist, probably wins it? If he keeps up the pace offensively that he has right now, which is absolutely insane, if he keeps that pace up, he's going to win the Norris. But we all know, sitting on the show, it's got nothing to do with how you defend or if you're a 200-foot player or Erik Karlsson. Good Lord. Like enough said. But this is why this is why I think Quinn Hughes will be the guy. Ultimately, if he can keep up this pace, I think he wins the Norris this year. And again, it's, you guys know this. Once the buzz starts going about a guy, the buzz is going. And right now, it's Quinn Hughes, and it's much deserved offensively.
I was gonna say. So then, I know that you're not a Karlsson guy, and back in the day, I wasn't as big a Karlsson guy as everybody else. How do you feel about building a team around your best player being an offensive defenseman? Because you sound not crazy about it.
I think it's hard, and I think we talked about it before on this show when you talk about building it from the best goaltender. You talk about Shesterkin, because you can't do it by yourself. And I think you can win a championship in this league with slightly above average goaltending. And I think you can win it with a group of defensemen, which Florida did. And I think that the goal of every team in the league right now is to win a Stanley Cup. Every team is trying to do that and build a team to do that. You don't need to have that number one puck moving defenseman. You need to have a group of 6 that can all play and fit in their role and play together. You can't win without a number one center. I just don't think that you can in this league, that you don't have a guy that can drive the bus offensively 5-on-5 and on a power play. I just don't think you can. And if you really want to have a successful team, not only do you need 1, you need 2. And that's incredibly rare. It's hard to do. You have to do it through the draft, through free agency. It's hard to do that. But I think if you need to build a franchise, you got to start with the middle of the ice on the top line.
So how do you feel about then that I forget who reported it, but I think a lot of people now have at this point that it seems that even if they trade Elias Pettersson, the Canucks, they're still going to trade JT Miller, and that both of those guys might go.
Well, I mean, first of all, sorry to jump in, but like if you're trading Elias Pettersson, you absolutely should trade JT Miller as well, because like what is the window of your team
right now? Because he's a little older, so you just make basically, all right, we're rebuilding around Quinn Hughes, which that infuriates Petey because he says he's bad.
No, and I had this discussion with somebody before, and they said, be careful how you talk about Quinn Hughes. He's a phenomenal offensive defenseman, the best in the game at that area of the game. He is. I think he might like Cale Makar makes great plays offensively. Quinn Hughes is like ridiculous, his ability to move in the offensive zone. Having said that, he's still not the best defenseman in the league. Okay, I had to say that. So everybody will tweet me, text me, DM me, and tell me I'm an idiot. I'm used to it by now.
Okay, on Pettersson, reportedly now the Buffalo Sabres are the front runners to land him. We've had a long show, so we haven't been able to get to this. Sean, I'm looking at you in the eye, and I'm saying I would not do that if I were the Buffalo Sabres. I think you need an adult in the room, and I don't know, and I know that he was a little banged up last year, but looking at his postseason last year, that scares the bejesus out of me.
He's also a very streaky player, and it seems like a player that like the game can get in between his ears a little bit. And if you're stuck in Buffalo, where famously the culture hasn't been amazing, that would really scare me.
He plays like somebody who's already on the Buffalo Sabres.
He does. That's
I'm
so
afraid
true.
of what happens when he actually gets to the Buffalo Sabres. Does the jersey cancel it out?
Maybe.
I was waiting for Sean to respond, and I don't know. Is he still
Sean's
in mourning?
not speaking today.
Yeah, different show. But I don't know. Here again, there's players I like and there's players I don't. I don't think Elias Pettersson's going to help the Buffalo Sabres. I don't think he does. I don't think he can do it by himself. I don't think he has the things that you need to be one of those top forwards in the league, and it's a combination of several things: speed, hand skill, shot, and grit. And I don't know if he ranks high enough in all 4 of those things. I don't know if he does. And one of the things that concerns me right now, I don't know him. I have never spent 1 second inside the Vancouver Canuck room. Don't know it. I've heard stories of how JT Miller can be difficult to have as a teammate. I don't know that as a fact. But he's not the only player in the NHL that's demanding of his other players. We've heard stories of Nathan McKinnon pushing the players on the Colorado Avalanche. He pushed them to a cup. I don't know if Elias Pettersson can't get up and either get along with your team. You don't have to like them. You don't have to like everybody you work with at any job you have. You don't, but you have to find a way to be successful at the job that you're trying to perform. And so Elias Pettersson and JT Miller have a common goal, and that's to win a Stanley Cup. Every player does. That's their goal. So to me, if you can't have the disagreements in the locker room or off the ice, you still need to pursue that goal on the ice together and be able to get along and coexist. And having that, if you're the next team to take JT Miller, do you have a little bit of geez, I don't know if this is going to work in our room. Things are so good right now. Is that the guy we need? And Elias Pettersson, it's like, God, if things go bad, can he really get us through the trenches when we're having an 0-6 week? Is that the guy we can really lean on? I'm concerned about it. And I don't know if that bodes well for either future of these two guys, and especially in Vancouver, where you're in trouble. This team, unless they do something drastic, and they're not making the playoffs. And that's a huge, huge jump from playing 7 games against the Edmonton Oilers just a season ago.
To shift from a hypothetical trade to one that just happened, how do you like Rantanen's fit in Carolina, and how do you like the return fit in Colorado?
Unfortunately, I haven't heard what you guys think, so I'm going to be very careful. He's great in Carolina. Well, phenomenal. Like Mikko Rantanen to me is he is not Draisaitl. He's not McDavid. He's not McKinnon. He's not Matthews. He's not those guys. But his game is complete. He's the Barkov. He's the guy that does everything. And he's the guy that really you need in your room. Do I think he can help them win a cup? Absolutely. This brings them a dangerous element that I don't know if they had in Carolina. You talk about Carolina's ability to defend and quick enough to stay over top of teams and smother teams in all 3 zones. But they didn't have that elite scorer. Who can be that at times. But they didn't have this. And now you've added a new threat to their power play. You've added a new threat to 5-on-5. Oh, and it's a guy you can put out in any situation. Up by 1, down by 1. I think that makes this team so much more dangerous if they can get their goaltending sorted out and playing well at the right time. I don't know how this doesn't become one of the favorite teams to win the cup.
Would you give him the massive contract he's seeking? Because at the time of the trade, I said I'd give him the Draisaitl contract. In the days since, it doesn't seem like it even is the Draisaitl contract. It seems like it's maybe 12, 13-ish. We just talked about building around defensemen and offensive defensemen.
Yeah.
Would you build around a wing with this kind of money?
First of all, he's not Draisaitl money. That's I think one of the problems with people and when they compare players, you get your fan favorite or your team favorite or your regional favorite, and it skews the actual facts of what's going on the ice. Leon Draisaitl is exceptional. Leon Draisaitl, if at times McDavid's the best player in the league, and there's times Draisaitl is. Right now, it's Draisaitl. Like, he's got 40 or more goals 5 times, going to be 6 this year, 6 times. Rantanen's done it twice. And it's not everything, but look who Rantanen's playing with. You can say Draisaitl's playing with McDavid. Well, Rantanen's playing with some pretty good players too. He's getting all the offensive ice time. Draisaitl's got his 5th 100-point season. Rantanen's got 2. Rantanen's got a cup. And that's something Draisaitl can't say as of yet. To me, and again, this might be my last appearance, Draisaitl's better. Like there's no comparable here financially. Colorado had to do what they felt they needed to do financially. And I will say this for Colorado. Kudos to them. That's hard to do. And I can only compare it to things I've been through personally. Oliver Ekman-Larsson was an Arizona Coyote, and buddy, not Draisaitl, not Rantanen. I get it. And so people don't send the mail. Oliver Ekman-Larsson isn't that player, but he was that player to Arizona. He was their captain. He was their best defenseman. He led the bus on the power play in 5-on-5. His contract was up. John Chaika was stuck. Fan favorite on a team that struggles to get attendance, that is trying to find their way, and he had to pay Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And he paid him over $10 million. Now, was Oliver worth $10 million? Gosh, I don't know. I don't know how many teams would have given him that in that market, but important for him to stay in that team. He got the contract, and a year later, that contract's a disaster and hurts your team. And luckily for Bill Armstrong, was able to push that contract up, turn him into Dylan Gunther, get the money off, and Utah is where they are now because they were able to avoid that contract. Colorado just saved themselves years of trouble. Of course they want Rantanen. They want a hometown discount. They want him to fit in with what they're doing. You pay him more than McKinnon. What happens when McKinnon comes up? What happens when McCarr comes up? And all of a sudden you've paid yourself out and you're the Chicago Blackhawks 2 years after a cup. I know it's hard, and they wanted Rantanen, but it's business. Colorado will survive.
My main takeaway is you thought this show was going to get mad that you said Mikko Rantanen isn't as good as Leon Draisaitl. We are on board with that take, brother. That very controversial take. We can all stomach that.
Yeah, it's the truth. Watch him play. And one thing I do, and I'm not coming on this show, and if I don't see it, I don't say it. So I know I talked to you guys last night, and I pulled up film and I started watching film all night, last night, all day this morning, because I don't want them come here and look stupid. That's my opinion. Now, is that the opinion of everybody? No, it's mine. It's what I saw. It's what I saw with my eyes. Draisaitl's better. Rantanen's a great player. He's going to help Carolina. He might help them hoist the cup. He really might. But that's a piece they need. But he's no Draisaitl.
I'm giving him a bag, though. I mean, he's younger and he's basically
For
on
sure.
the open market. I already think that Draisaitl is. I said this earlier in the show. I already kind of think that he's already outperforming the contract before it's even begun. So let's say Draisaitl is actually worth like 15.5 times 8. With the cap going up, do you give Rantanen 8 times 14 to make sure you keep the guy? I know it's controversial. I would if I were Carolina, but that's just me.
I think it's a massive overpay, but I will say, like, I would think that I would feel comfortable if I'm Carolina paying over what Rantanen's quote unquote market value might be, just because he seems like he could be the final piece for them. Whereas, like, you might be paying on the front end and not love it on the back end, but he checks so many boxes of what you need right now. You said, like, the star finisher that they haven't had in the playoffs. I think he also brings, like, the edge and the net front presence that they haven't had in the playoffs. And he's just one of those guys that has the intensity of a winner. And I think they need that.
What they do on defense is like what the Blackhawks used to do with their bottom 6, where they were like, oh, no, we'll just keep rotating. We'll just keep developing and bringing guys out. Like, Carolina said goodbye to 2 very good defensemen, and they're absolutely fine. So if they can keep doing that, then pay your forwards $20 million. It doesn't matter. So if they can keep doing that, then it's more reason to be able to get away with paying an absolute ton to a wing. And I historically have been on the don't build around wings, but Rantanen is one of 2 wings in the league that I would, the other being Kucherov.
Yeah, and the fear you have, though, is you get that escalating price. As the cap goes up, you're going to price yourself out into a difficult situation that every player now that outperforms that particular player wants a new contract. And that's going to happen league-wide. It's not just in Carolina or Colorado. It's everywhere that's going to be an issue. But I'll tell you this, there is every general manager in the National Hockey League right now, and every head coach would sell their future to win a Stanley Cup today. Period. Like, they'll deal with the mess that the Chicago Blackhawks cap space had. They'll deal with it later, because right now we're going to win a cup. LA Kings, we're going to lose some prospects, and we're going to struggle for a few years, but we won a cup now. I do think St. Louis Blues, you had to trade Tage Thompson, but they had to trade Tage Thompson to win a Stanley Cup. So you're willing to, as a fan base, as a general manager, as an ownership group, you're willing to forego that and deal with that problem much, much down the road if you can win a cup. So Carolina, are they willing to overpay right now to continually be a team that has an opportunity to win a Stanley Cup? I think the answer is yes.
And, like, I don't think Eric Tulsky thinks this way, but, like, Tulsky coming in and swinging the biggest deal that we've seen in years, and then winning a Stanley Cup in his first year at the helm, that would buy him like 20 years of job security, essentially.
Buddy, Kyle Dubas is still working, and look at how he's done in the playoffs. But look at Tulsky, like, but I know nothing. Another guy you don't know anything about. Like, I'm not even sure if that, like, when they use his picture in the media guide, is that really him? We don't know. Like, you don't see him. Phenomenal job with an owner that has been traditionally watching his finances very closely. This was a surprise move, and I'm surprised they swung for it. This is a dangerous team, and they've got a coach that competes incredibly hard, and they're gearing up in the East. And the East is going to be different this year. The East isn't going to be what I think if the top teams were over the last few years. This puts Carolina right there at the very top.
Let me ask you this. Chat's talking about this a little bit right now, but, like, if you were to hand out one mega deal to a winger this summer, would you feel more comfortable giving that deal to Rantanen or Mitch Marner?
Rantanen.
Julie.
Not even close. But again, I go for the player that provides you so many different things. I want the complete player that can do things when I need the player to do that. Mitch Marner is a very nice player. Mitch Marner can make a very good play on a power play when he's not getting pushed, when he doesn't have that guy right on his back. And I think Mikko Rantanen has ability to fight that kind of thing off. I think he protects the puck better. I think he can play 200 foot better than Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner's an outstanding player that can put up points offensively and help you both 5-on-5 and on the power play. But I'm afraid that deal may cause trouble in Toronto if you sign him to the big ticket. I like Marner. I don't love Marner. I'll take Rantanen over Marner all day.
It's a fun question. It's a fun question. I mean, I think it's a question with an easy answer, but it's still a question.
I mean, I think that.
But is it though?
People would value Marner's defensive ability as a full package deal.
Yes, he can defend and he can get pucks back. He's an unbelievable puck retriever, and his ability to back check and lift sticks. He's kind of like Datsuk in that and ability to retrieve pucks. I still like the complete play of Rantanen. And the one thing about this, and I have to say this because I know you guys probably get people telling you you're idiots too, but don't. Clearly my opinion. Like if you have a different one, great, get a show, get on it. Like tell people what you think, because that's just my opinion. If I had to have a team, I'd start with Mikko Rantanen over Mitch Marner.
Petey, there is nothing we enjoy more than chatting with you. You are the best.
Sorry.
It's so great to have you back on.
Was I angry today? Did I come off a little angry today?
No, you were using some hate speech at some point.
I'm sorry.
We'll cut it out. We'll cut it out for audio.
Yeah,
don't worry
get that
about
spin for me. Make me a little more positive. I got to work on that.
Talking about
image.
Shane Gillis got canceled, and he's like the biggest star in the world. You'll be fine, buddy.
You kept turning everything back to how the New York Islanders are suddenly going to win the Stanley Cup, and you're really pumped about that.
Yeah, your
I think so.
takes for wild, but the audio listeners will never hear.
By the way,
don't worry.
We didn't talk D'Angelo, and I'm not going to, but he was actually an Arizona Coyote, so actually witnessed the inside the locker room antics firsthand. So maybe that's another show, another
tough
day.
Weekend for the. I'm not. This isn't a defense of Tony D'Angelo, but tough weekend for the Tony D'Angelo got kicked off his team in Russia crowd. Like, did he?
Yeah.
No, it didn't seem like that happened.
No, he left for family reasons and immediately got an NHL contract.
He said he was like, you know what, I need to leave right now, and then an hour later was back in the NHL.
The last thing I'll say on Tony D'Angelo, I love the idea of like an annual signal flare sent up in the air for a really desperate team who's going through it is signing Tony D'Angelo in like January. That rocks.
It should be like a yearly thing. Yeah, I agree. Like just prior to the trade deadline, it should be like Tony D'Angelo Day.
But
I'm in.
But it has to be a 2-year deal.
I celebrate.
And they buy him out at the end of the year.
The only thing that would change is he's got to sign the deal on January 6th. Tony D'Angelo Day. January 6th, he signs with his team, the most desperate team in the NHL. Let's do it.
Did you see somebody put out like a joke account was like Tony D'Angelo will wear number 47 with the Islanders? And so many people, again, this isn't a defense of Tony. This is a people use your brains. They were so mad. It's hockey Twitter. It seems like a joke, but could be wrong. Yeah. All right, Petey, we love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Later, everybody. Inside the coach's room with Petey. Everybody make sure you're subbed there and check it out. It's very good. Sean, let us get to a slate grade, shall we?
Yes, briefly, I just want to bring up, I feel like no one ever brings up the point in the Rantanen versus Draisaitl conversation, which I guess isn't a conversation that often. Leon doesn't play with Connor McDavid that often.
Yeah.
Like comparatively, he does not spend that much time on the ice with Connor McDavid compared to Rantanen, who spends almost all of his time on the ice with Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah.
Just want to throw that out there.
The Draisaitl like is a product of McDavid conversation, I think is long dead. I think that body is cold and everybody knows that Draisaitl
I will say I lost a lot of money on the Buffalo Bills last night, but do you know what I have done what I did in the week before that? Cleaned up on the idea that Leon Draisaitl is a product of Connor McDavid. Like, we talked about it like, hey, everybody, if you're DFSing or whatever, Leon Draisaitl's probably going to go off, and he did. Yeah. And that was easy and predictable.
One of the things I did want to ask Petey about, and maybe later in the week or some other time, like how much of the Rantanen conversation is going to be a product of like the previous Gensel discussion where like Rantanen you don't really know what you're getting with Rantanen without McKinnon to this point, but like people said the same things about Gensel, and although he now plays on like an equally awesome line in Tampa, but like he was awesome in Carolina.
Yeah. So somebody says, DJ, I could have told you not to bet the Bills, and guess what I would have done? I would have ignored you. A lot of people told me not to bet the Bills. I was in there, Tommy Giles. We just had a lot of fun until it didn't go. Tony D'Angelo was wearing number 4, by the way. Best defenseman to do so?
Yeah, best offensive defenseman to wear number 4.
NHL history? All right, so congratulations to the New York Islanders on your Stanley Cup. Bobby Orr famously won some of those. Let's get to a slate grade real quick, if we could, Sean. There are 5 games this evening beginning at 7 p.m. with the Kings at the Red Wings in a Luc Robitaille Bowl. Paul Coffey Bowl, a Cam Talbot Bowl.
This is a Todd McClellan Bowl.
It's a Todd McClellan Bowl. Oh, yeah.
Todd McClellan
revenge game.
Yeah.
It's a Troy Stetcher Bowl. Had to get that in there.
Oh, yeah.
Devils at Flyers, 7 p.m. Wayne Simmons Bowl. John Van Beesbrook Bowl. Shout out to... Who brought up John Van Beesbrook today? Was it Marek?
No, it was a guest that we will see tomorrow, Ryan Leonard.
Oh, Ryan Leonard, when we taped with him, brought up John Van Beesbrook.
Yes.
It took all I had to not go,
This man's familiar with the Slate Grades.
John, did you know that he played with Mike Richter in New York? Jaromir Jagr Bowl is Devils at Flyers, as is Johnny Oduya Bowl.
A Wayne Simmons Bowl.
It still is. Very good. Canucks, I kicked it off with Wayne Simmons
I
Bowl.
missed that. Sorry.
That's all right. Canucks at Blues, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be a Pavel Dimitra Bowl. Ryan Miller Bowl, for sure.
People forget.
People do forget.
Can I throw this
Ryan
at you?
Miller sucked with the Blues.
He was so bad. Can I throw this at you?
Yeah.
A Michael Delzato Bowl? Not what you
can
think
throw
when
it
you
at me, but
see when you think Michael Delzato, you're not thinking Canucks at Blues, but that's why we do these things.
not thinking much when I think Michael Delzato.
And people do ask, why do we do these things? Kraken at the Oilers, 9:30 p.m. This is a fun one. I'll let you freestyle, Pete.
What? Say again?
Kraken at Oilers.
Oh, this is a easy Kyle Yamamoto Bowl.
It's a Kyle Yamamoto Bowl. It's an Adam Larson revenge game.
That is true.
And
Well,
yep. Depending on what he last played for the Oilers before the Kraken.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. What else?
This is a big one. The guy you like talking about. We talked about with tomorrow's guest. The first time he was on the show. Taylor Hall, we discussed his former Oilers teammate.
Oh, it's a Jordan Eberle Bowl.
It's a Jordan Eberle
Yeah, of
Bowl.
course.
Very good, Pete. And Penguins at Sharks, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, wrapping it up and taking us home with a Cody Ceci Bowl.
That's right.
And we did
Patrick Marleau Bowl.
What's that?
Patrick Marleau Bowl.
Oh, good one. Patrick Marleau Bowl. Yes. Cody Ceci scored over the weekend.
He did.
It was not enough.
Assisted by.
Shoot, I'm gonna get it. Jake Wallman.
That's right, baby. The best defensive pair in the league.
We should have asked Petey. Can the Sharks build around the two best offensive defensemen in the league, Cody Ceci and Jake Wallman?
Eric Carlson revenge game also.
Yes.
True.
I think that
Gross.
both teams want revenge on having had to have Eric Carlson. But that's going to do it for today's show. If you are not subscribed yet, please make sure you hammer that button. It was a very eventful show. A lot of people were checking it out, which is very cool. We probably should have been telling you to subscribe throughout, but we were too busy BSing with our buddies because that's what we do on the show.
That's right. Tomorrow's a big episode too. So hammer the subscribe button, hammer that like button. Stay tuned for tomorrow. We thought we had a big double guest show today. Big one tomorrow with two players, Ryan Leonard and Taylor Hall. Very excited about that. Stay tuned. We got plenty for you. I'll be in a squirrel costume. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love you.
We all silly like the mayor.